All right, well, I've been working on my cars, trying to get, these two ready to hit the off-road track again. And while I was working on them, I was thinking about a lot of things. Um, over since the late 80s, I've been racing RC cars off and on. That's been about 35 years. So I've seen a lot of things come and go. There's some trends that I think may be hurting the hobby overall. And there's a lot of differences that I've noticed here lately between off-road and running basically off-road chassis based oval cars. And I wanted to talk about some of that stuff and get some of your input on what do you think type of thing. Start with on the oval side of it. What I see here in Central Florida, what I see on the oval side, a lot of off-road based cars, two-wheel drive buggies, short course trucks, that type of thing. Very popular, and the movement, the oval movement, seems to be growing quite a bit. And I think part of that is budgetary, because a lot of the classes that's really seem to be popular are the least expensive classes to run. Um, like a Warzone, the Breakout Bomber is a very reasonable class to run because you're just trying to hit certain lap times. You're not trying to um, outspend everybody else. Very, very inexpensive setup. As long as you have the chassis set up right and you drive smooth, you're going to hit the lap times. And I noticed there's several other tracks that have very popular classes based around the Traxxas Slash, the brushed version that you can pick up, excuse me, for about $200. And you put a low CG chassis on it, you put a street stock body or a mud boss body on it, and go out there and race and have a blast. You're not spending a fortune. Now that's where I think 10 scale off-road is suffering, because we've got ourselves backed into this corner. Because when the economy really went to crap, back around 08 or 09, the RC industry as a whole was suffering, and the local hobby shops were closing up, and the manufacturers needed a way to get product out. So they started sponsoring a lot of local level drivers in the stock classes, and they did that by excuse me, offering a discount for a contract that you're going to only run their product. And that is fine and dandy. There are guys that probably have 50% off discounts, that type of thing, or there's probably some that even get stuff for free, which is great for them. Hallelujah. More power to you. However, one of the problems I see with the stock class is the cost of the electronics. Now I know that somebody's going to want to tell me, pick up, a Hobby Wing, easy run, just stock ESC, and the just stock motor, and you'll be ready to go, which you would be legal. However, the just stock motor is a lock timing motor, so you can't advance the timing, whereas everybody else is running motors they can advance the timing on. And I own one of the just stock ESCs. I've got it in my bomber over here, and I know from experience, and I can tell you without a doubt, there is a huge, I mean absolutely huge difference in performance between the 60 amp ESC and a pro level 120, 150 amp ESC in blinky mode. There's a huge difference in performance as far as punch, going down the straightaway, launching for jumps, coming out of the corners. If you go and you think you're going to compete with the high dollar electronics with the just stock ESC, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Now, I think that realization and the cost involved in setting up a car for stock competition is counterproductive to the overall health of the hobby. Because when you go and you look at the guys that are running the stock class, their cars are anything but stock. They've got titanium everywhere, ceramic bearings. I mean, they wouldn't be running these shock towers. They'd be running the carbon fiber shock towers. They'd be running carbon fiber braces throughout this car. They would be, it wouldn't not be anything close to a stock car anymore. And the biggest thing that is prohibitive is when somebody is looking into this. And I ran into the same thing. It was about 4 years ago when I decided to get back into the hobby again. I went looking at what the guys were running, and most of the guys were sponsored, and they were telling me everything I needed to have in order to put together a competitive car. Well, you're starting with a $300 kit, and by the time you're all said and done, what you put on the track, you had $1,200 in because you spent another $300 to $400 in upgrades on the car, $300 or more on the motor and speed control. Plus you wanted a super fast, super lightweight, low profile servo, which is, another $120, $150. You need to get, a radio that was going to be $400 or up. All this stuff that they were throwing at me that you needed to have to be competitive. And it was like, most people are not going to be able to just go from, having nothing to shelling out that kind of money on something they're not 100% sure they're going to be ready to stick with. So that'll turn them off, and they may never come back to the track. Now, with that aside, and please, if you think I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments. Just tell me where you think I'm wrong and what you see that's different. But I do know that with 10th scale versus 8th scale, it's simpler, because 8th scale buggy, it's ebuggy. It's not ebuggy mod versus ebuggy stock. It's ebuggy. And it's not, when you talk about what you've got in a competitive stock 10 scale buggy, you're in the ballpark of an 8 scale rig. The car doesn't have to be anything other than what you get in the kit. The servo I've been running in this for the past few years is a Savox servo. I think I paid $90 for it. And the power system got pulled out of an Arma 6S vehicle that I run on 4S. All the power in the world, and I haven't had the need to do a whole bunch of other stuff to this car. The only thing that's holding this car back is my driving. Now, I don't know what the solution is, and I don't know where do we go from here. I just know that in my point of view, when I go to the track, I'm going to be running an e-buggy. I'm going to be running this in four-wheel drive buggy, period. I'm not, 13.5 stock, none of that kind of stuff. I have a 13.5 motor in this right now, but I do plan on moving some motors around. And I'm going to run this open. If they don't, if a track doesn't have an open four-wheel drive class, then I just leave it parked, because I'm not going to put the just stock ESC in this with a 13.5 and expect to be able to do anything other than getting other people's way. So I know there's a lot of people that are probably going to get butt hurt because I've ragged about the sponsored drivers and that kind of thing. But I think overall that has become a detriment. I think it's hurting people that are looking at getting into the hobby because they're looking at the cost. And you see you see more people getting into RC racing that haven't done it before, going into oval, because the cost of admission is so much less than a 10 scale, or for that matter, an 8 scale off-road car. I think we've just progressed things to the point where it's very cost prohibitive. If a track or some kind of a sanctioning body wanted to come up with, limiting specific motor and ESC combo in the off-road cars, and did it on something that's economical, I think that would help. But I think the industry as a whole we've gotten ourselves shoehorned into the gotta have the titanium, gotta have the ceramic, gotta have the carbon fiber, gotta have the super duper $150 ESC, the $120, $130 motor to run stock. Anyways, that's just my short rant, and I'll probably address this again in another video, but I'm really curious to hear what other people have to say about this, what you think. All right, peace.